And welcome to the Technology Geek podcast. My name is Brandon, the Technology Geek, and we are here as we are every week to talk, computer security, ham radio, and preppers, survivalism, all that stuff. Today we have a very special guest on the show. We have Robert from ReadyMadeResources.com. He's here to join us today, and I want to thank him very much. He actually lives on a actual fully operational homestead, which is really amazing thing. Myself, Rob, I'm actually looking hopefully to do something like that over the next year or so. My wife and I are looking at some property and things of that nature. And we're very happy to have you on the show. Thank you very much for being on here today.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So, Rob, I guess what would be great if you can tell us a little bit about your homestead, exactly what exactly you do on the homestead, and maybe give people a little bit more of a feel that maybe don't know exactly what a homestead is.
Well, it's not like an 18th century homestead, that's for sure. All the modern conveniences of modern life. We power a lot of everything we do here with solar energy. We have a complete large solar energy system, as well as several other small solar energy systems that power different projects on our property. We do a complete line of animal husbandry, from horses, goats, ducks, chickens, and so we produce a lot of our own meat and eggs, sometimes milk. We do a lot of organic gardening. If people go to pictures of our homestead, we have lots of fruit trees. Where we grow all organic vegetables, everything from broccoli to carrots to cabbage to tomatoes to corn. So we have quite a wide range of produce we do that my wife and friends can. And so we stay pretty busy. That we also, my wife is also a naturopath doctor, so we take a lot of our own medical needs, and she takes care of them. And as well, a potter. I see you drinking from your coffee mug. I make those things. And I'm also a luthier, a member of the American Luthier Society, and that's not a Lutheran. A luthier is the person who builds guitars, and I build steel string guitars.
It's really cool. As you can see, I have quite the collection behind me here. If I move out of the way, I'm a bit of a musician. You can see all my different magazine covers and all that on the walls. Become kind of a secret of mine. There's a lot of my audience and stuff like that always look for the different pictures on the walls and stuff, so it's kind of neat. But it's kind of my wife and I might work else. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I just said I have a Brazilian rosewood guitar with a right now, and I spoke shave the necks myself. I have my own custom logo. I do a lot of mother of pearl and abalone in. So I enjoy doing it. It's a fun thing. It's quite a labor-intensive project, but when you're done, you've made something that absolutely sounds beautiful.
Well, and a lot of people.
And as you see here, this is one of the mugs that I made. So.
One thing about guitar making as well, and I know we have a lot of musicians that listen to the program on a weekly basis. The guitar making, it's such an art. I myself, about a year and a half ago, if you're interested, we were actually, the podcast was actually invited down to the PRS factory down in Maryland. And let me tell you, those guys, I mean, it's just amazing to see what they can do with a piece of wood. It's just phenomenal, and I give you credit if you're able to do that. I don't have the craftsmanship to make the guitar, but I do have the skill to play one, so that's very neat.
A lot of builders are not players. I'm not a player, but I do. There's out in California, Hillsburg Guitar Festival, where there's a lot of builders, and they have a yearly thing where all the builders go, and it's surprising how many people can build a guitar but can't play it. And I can play at it, but I know how to build one.
That's really neat. So, yeah, it's really neat. And you said as well your wife is also she's also, I'm sorry, what kind of doctor? I apologize.
We practice naturopathic holistic medicine. We grow a lot of herbs and on our property that she uses, plus a lot of non-pharmaceutical remedies and preventions. So she has a degree in naturopathic, second Dan in black belt. So she has a rather unique skill set, rather being able to cure you or kill you, I guess you could say. But so like I said, she's an instructor at a karate dojo as well as a doctor.
You know, that's really amazing that you talk about that. I actually am working on becoming a certified yoga instructor. I had a back injury a few years ago, and they wanted to do surgery, and I found a yoga program that really worked for me, and I've been doing it for about 2 years, and I mean, I think I feel better now than I did before I hurt my back, to tell you the honest truth. So it's kind of neat you'd say something like that.
You know, well, we both believe the fact that most of what ails America as far as their degenerative diseases, heart disease, diabetes, those types of things are usually just by our diet and just changing the way we live our lives. So her has holistic solutions, and she does consultation with people who are looking to live a healthier life and maybe shut off some of the things that are caused by the excess in American diet. But that's another story. So, but anyhow, we've been doing this homestead for 18 years. We like the self-reliant lifestyle very, very much. It gives us a sense of independence as well as freedom and a very, I guess, rewarding experience as we produce different things around our property. So it's something my wife and I both enjoy as well as our 12-year-old.
Yeah, that's you know, the other thing too you mentioned about growing organic. That's something I've really gotten into maybe over the last year or so, is trying to eat more organic. Just the stuff they put in food nowadays. Some days it's just not. You just wonder, you know, is it safe sometimes to eat? And you know, they say organic's more money because of the work they put into it. But you know, I'm the kind of person, I'm willing to spend the kind of money to know what I'm putting in my body is a lot safer and a lot cleaner and is the way God intended it to be grown.
And you know, we spray crops with these terrible chemicals. We have genetically modified food that is in the bloodstream. Uh, we have, you know, all this alteration of the way, and again, I think it shows in American diet. We have massive problems, health problems in our country that I think are largely curable, preventable, just by changing the way we eat. And again, getting the chemically poisoned food, chemically fertilized food out of our diet. We have our own fertilizer factories here. They're called Goats and Horses, as well as we compost everything that's organic. So anything that's from grass clippings to leaves to recycling the plants after we harvest the fruit off them goes to the soil via composting it.
Now, did you practice like crop rotation and things like that to keep your soil healthy and things like that?
Yes, we do crop rotation. We also do companion gardening. There's a book out, it's very popular, it's called Carrots Love Tomatoes. And there's chemicals in the carrots that prevent tomato worms from attacking tomatoes. So you can companion gardening. A lot of people know about certain flowers that you can plant around crops that'll keep things away. There's ways to keep slugs away. It depends on what you know, particular parasite might want to attack your plant. There's always something that you can do to try to prevent that organically rather than using a chemical poison, which eventually ends up in our food supply, which means it ends up in you. So we produce really a very large and successful amount of food for our family without using any chemical fertilizers or chemical poisons.
Now, the other question I know a couple people had asked when I told them that we were doing this, especially a lot of the women that we have that listen to our program were asking about the canning process. Is that more of your wife's thing, or would you be able to give us a little insight on that?
Well, my wife is actually my wife and her friends, do most of the canning, but I'm pretty familiar with it. There's two types of canning that you would do: a low acidic canning and a high acidic canning. And one's a water bath canning, and one's a pressure cooker canning. And probably the pressure cooker canning I'm familiar with. And that's where you would cook things that have low acid in them, such as green beans and such. Where tomatoes, you can water bath can them to preserve them. Fruit also, you pressure cook it. So I mean, this year alone, we produced thousands of pounds of fruit, everything from apples to pears, peaches, grapes. Gosh, cherries. We have several cherry trees on our property, and we probably had 20 gallons of cherries. So she pits those, and she'll make preserves, jams out of them, or just preserve the food as a the cherries so she can use it later on.
Now, if you don't mind me
Well, we have a
asking,
cupboard full of apples and pears right now.
now if you don't mind me asking, how many acres you on
Go
that
ahead.
allows you to produce that amount of food?
We only use maybe 2 or 3 acres of food. It's there's a lot of good information out there that people can get. A book, Square Foot Gardening, that talks about how to produce a large amount of food in a small space, and that's generally what we do. Plus, we in Tennessee where we live, we can get 2 crops a year out of our soil. So we can produce 2 broccoli crops. We get one corn crop, one tomato crop, one potato crop. We also have a greenhouse, which if they go to the website, readymaderesources.com, there's 3 rotational pictures that come up, and they'll see the greenhouse there. Right now I'm growing tomatoes in the greenhouse. I have limes and oranges growing in the greenhouse, and we're in Tennessee, so limes and oranges aren't indigenous to our area. Plus we grow a large assortment of different herbs that my wife uses for culinary as well as medicinal.
Now,
Just a case in point, I was working clearing some property, and I actually burnt my hand pretty good. And we use a lavender oil, and a lot of people don't realize this, but lavender oil, pure essential lavender oil, has better burn pain relief properties than morphine does. So I along the burn, which was a second-degree burn, and immediately the pain goes away. Now, a lot of people don't know that. They want to go to the doctor and get a synthetic chemical that numbs the pain or that, but there are naturopathic in burns and preventing infection that are, if not every bit as good, or more likely more effective than what you would get from the pharmaceutical company.
now, if you don't mind me asking, now my wife and I we actually have probably about maybe half an acre that we actually got at a tax sale and stuff like that. We're going to be looking, start growing our own fruits and vegetables and things of that nature. Would you have any suggestions for us how we should, treat the soil to start out with? I mean, right now it's a wooded area. I'm in Pennsylvania, so we, only get a couple good months a year without, bad weather. What would you recommend?
Well, first of all, I think you hit the right question. I don't grow anything. God grows the stuff. I build the dirt. And so if I make good dirt, it's like eating good food. I'm generally healthier. So my job as a gardener is to make sure that I put the nutrients in the soil and build good soil so that you have the bacteria, the worms, everything else you need. The soil is very loamy, and that allows the plant to have good nutrition, and it makes the plant stronger so it's able to resist disease and parasites easier. So the real thing you start with is your soil, and you build good soil. And again, like I said, we take everything in our house from not only grass clippings, some leaf clip, corn cobs or anything like that. Use eggshells, coffee grinds. All of that goes into our compost bins, which we have 5 large compost bins, and then we just keep turning it over from bin to bin to bin until it's ready to go back into the garden. I always kind of thought of writing a book. Albert Einstein taught me to garden, and that sounds like a funny title, but the premise of it is that you take the matter and you turn it back into things that make energy used to regrow themselves. So it's a cyclical nature that we don't waste anything. Everything is reused and reused again and again. So that's where you would start, is building good dirt. And don't do it with chemicals. A lot of the chemical fertilizers you have toxins in it as well. You can just do a Google study real quick and see that there's a lot of things in chemical fertilizers that you don't want in your ground. And then the other thing is we do raised bed gardening.
Go ahead. I wanted to talk about the raised bed gardening. Yeah, we seem to have just a bit of a delay. Please talk about the raised bed gardening, if you would, and then also too, I have a lot of people in my local area that are asking me, how do I grow the food without feeding the deer and the raccoons? Because I'm in a very rural part of Pennsylvania, where it was mostly all wildlife. And that's a really big question I get all the time from people. So if you could elaborate, like I said, in your raised gardening, and then how do I keep from feeding the animals along with myself?
Okay, with we do raised bed gardening, and the reason I do raised bed gardening is I can augment the soil very quickly. So it gives me the ability to build a soil quickly and then augment it as necessary. So I can put nutrients in it as necessary, which go into the ground very quickly. And where we live, we have a lot of deer, but we've not had the deer come into our property. We have a huge problem with raccoons that they like to go into the corn patch and just absolutely tear it apart. I mean, a raccoon will eat 2 or 3 bites out of one ear of corn, tack another one, and attack traps, the humane traps. We usually put some sardines or something in it, and we'll catch them, and that prevents them from doing that. And then from time to time, we have to reduce the population of them somewhat. And you can take that. You know, we have to the population of raccoons can get rather large rather quickly.
You know, I have never met a fence. I have never built a fence that I have not seen a deer jump, and that's our biggest threat around here to our growing. Believe it or not, are the deer, and because we just have so many of them in the part of Pennsylvania where I'm at.
Because around your gardening, especially if you're doing raised bed gardening, if you can put an electric fence around it, they'll hit that 2 or 3 times and they'll stop. They will not go in there. Where we keep our goats, our ducks, of that nature, we do have an electric fence around it because foxes of that nature will like to go in there and feed on killer geese or whatever. And so once they hit that electric fence once or twice, and we have 3 strands of it, one at the low, one medium, and one high. So most critters will hit that thing, and they will not like to go in there. Plus, there's also a physical barrier fence, but the electric fence generally keeps them away. So, and same thing with the deer. Electric fence around it, that they'll hit that, and they'll get the message not to do it. They still might jump it, and again, you have to deal with it any way you can. But we garden. It's close to our home. We have like 10. We have a principal of 10 by 20 beds that we use to grow in, and then we do have one larger bed that is not raised bed that we do a lot of potatoes and corn in.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, do you guys hunt as well for your meat and stuff like that, or do you mostly deal with your cattle and your your chicken stuff like that for your poultry and stuff of that nature?
For the few times that the deer have tried to come in and eat our food, we have stocked the freezer. So
That's what they're there for.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, like I said, where I am,
my wife will make venison or jerky or eat.
Yeah, where I am, hunting season's a really big thing, and I take one deer a year during bow season, and it keeps my chest freezer pretty full till the following year.
Yes, but again, we've raised cows for beef before. We raised chickens. We eat a lot of poultry. I actually have a spring-fed pond on the property, and so we've stocked it with bass, and we can go down and catch them and have fresh fish as we need it. And it's not a lot, so we don't get a lot of fish out of it a year. They have to reproduce, but we'll get enough fish out of it to have good assortment of fish throughout the year.
Well, I live actually. My wife and I live only maybe a half a mile, not even. We live within walking distance of the largest man-made lake in Pennsylvania, so we eat a lot of fish.
Yes, and fortunately, we also have a huge reservoir in Tennessee. 3 main rivers feed into it. They have a Tennessee Dam that has produced a very, very, very large lake, hundreds of square miles. So there's no lack of fishing area where we live if you want to go out and excuse me, and fish. Just get. That's not the issue. My son and I, we usually take the canoe out and go fishing once or twice a year.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, on your homestead, obviously, I'm sure you enjoy residential electric, as we all do. Now, but what do you do? What are your backup plans for backup electricity and things of that nature?
Well, again, we have a very large. In the day, we're making 8,000 watts of electricity. When the sun is hitting our panels, we have a very large battery backup that's only used if the grid goes down. And as we make more power than what we use, we also will put it back onto the grid. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier, our ceramic shop is electric. You know that we don't make enough electricity to run that. That runs off the grid. But if the grid goes down, we have enough power to live rather comfortably until they can get it back up and running. Even during the summer, we can run a small air conditioning unit throughout the night with our battery backup.
Yeah, I know a lot of hams listen to the show, and I'm getting a couple tweets here on my Twitter. If you're interested, I don't know if you're on Twitter or not, but it's KB3YOA, my call sign. A lot of the ham radio guys are asking me, you got to ask him if he's a ham radio operator and what does he do for backup communications, because one of the biggest, hottest topics on our show is always emergency communication. So I have to ask.
Well, we are actually going to. I'm not a ham operator. I do have shortwave. I do own ham radios, which I guess I can use in an emergency, but since I can't use them on a regular basis or even a standard basis, we use a Midland 1050 for local communication. Any of our friends, which also live on homesteads, if I'm approaching their property, we all have selected channels that we would use to let them know that I'm approaching, coming in, so they're not surprised, because some of them have rather long driveways with no trespassing signs. They don't want people up on their property, and so that way I can allow them, to know I'm coming. And again, during an emergency, we have that backup communication where we can talk to one another.
Yeah. Now, if you don't mind me asking, are you fairly well secluded? Back where you are, or is it a long drive to a city or anything like that, or?
Well, I have a 300-foot driveway to our house. Our store, and we actually have a physical walk-in store, is closer to the front of the road, so people can come up to that. But then they drive a little bit further. You get to our house and our gardens, in which we have a lot of people that come here and just want to see how a modern homesteader lives and how we do things. So they get ideas what to do in a particular, thing that they're trying to achieve. We've been doing it for 18 years, so we have a lot of different technologies and things at work at one time here. And like I said, a lot of people just want to show up and not only browse our store, but also see how we do things. And again, I cannot stress too much as your people are tweeting you that communication is everything. Being able to communicate with people in an emergency situation, being able to count on the phone system if we had a national emergency, the phone systems could go down. Radio communication is paramount. We even keep radios in a secure EMP-proof place, so that worst case we had a major coronal mass ejection, or if somebody were to attack our nation in such a way as to damage our power system. We have radios that are protected so that we could use them post-event.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that, like I said, is I would say probably 60 to 70% of our audience is ham radio operators. So that's why, like I said, we do talk about, homesteading and all that other type of stuff, because we do have so many guys that are, ham radio operators that are really interested in it. So, but I know they were asking me. I almost have to ask every guest I have if they're a ham, because the audience, requires it almost,
Well, it's one of my goals to achieve to become a ham operator, so it's something I think is a very valid question and a very valid pursuit. And hopefully maybe in 2015 I will get my ham license. I have the books to do it. I've studied the courses. I just need to take time to go take the test. So maybe if we do another interview in 6 months, I will have my license by then.
Yeah. Now the other question is a couple people had asked me as well when I talked to them about this. They were asking. They had a couple questions about chickens and things. Do you actually have your own chickens and stuff like that on your homestead? I mean, I know you have animals and livestock, but is it something you deal with, or?
Oh yeah, we have chickens, and we have a very nice chicken coop for them. So we get eggs daily from them, and then when they lay out, they end up in the fins. We can raise our own, because we do have a rooster. And as I tell people, we have 8 chickens and one very happy rooster. Um, so when those lay out, we will have new fertilized eggs, or we'll buy the poults and just get new chickens and start all over again. But
Now,
we have taken the fertilized eggs and
now when somebody asks what when it comes to fertilized eggs, because I get people actually listening live, just so you know, I don't know if you're aware of that. They had asked how many chickens do you need roughly to get a decent supply of eggs?
well, we have, like I said, we have 8 chickens and one rooster, and we give eggs away to our friends all the time. We have more than we need. And so we have an incubator also when we want to take the fertilized eggs and turn them into little poults. We can just not eat them and put them in an incubator and let them hatch.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, what cattle or animals would you consider essential to any homestead? I mean, obviously, a lot of people like myself wouldn't be able to do that because one, time and space. But what would you consider essential almost to a homestead?
Well, any type of milking animal takes an incredible amount of time. If you have a milking cow, you are committed to that cow 7 days a week to milk it because it's dangerous not to milk them. It puts the animal in a lot of discomfort for one thing. They can get an infection. So, milking animal is a large demand on time doing it every day. So we generally stay away from that because of the time commitment of other things that we need to do versus being able to milk a cow sometimes up to twice a day. So easiest thing people can do, rabbits, people like rabbits because of the meat. Rabbits are easy to raise. We've raised them before. But chickens are very easy. Ducks, geese are very easy. The only thing you have to watch out for are predators because foxes, hawks will attack a bird. They'll attack your ducks. Generally, not your geese. In fact, geese are very, very good alarm animals. They make a lot of noise when something disturbs them, even in the middle of the night. You can hear them go off. So any breed of geese that you can domesticate and have around your property generally are very, very good. Guinea hens are another one. Are good to eat, and the guinea hens also, if you live on a home, you pick up all the ticks, things like that, as they walk around the yard, and so they can keep your yard free of those kind of things that you want to keep off your body, ticks and such. So really, there's animal. I mean, most people can deal with a couple chickens. So when you raise your own chicken, you can get them a natural feed. A lot of commercial. The arsenic is designed to keep parasites out of the chicken, but it also ends up in the egg. Small amounts of it end up in the egg, and so over time, you wonder what that arsenic does as you eat it. So you can just feed table scraps, and they end up grains. And they're very easy to take care of. There's a whole series of books that Story Book Company makes now. We do sell them, but you can get them how to raise chickens, how to raise a goat, how to raise a milk cow. Story Books produces a wide range of books on how to excellent.
Yeah, I know my hunting partner, he actually has 3 goats, actually, and they are actually, he gets goat milk and all type of stuff, and that is a tremendous amount of time he spends taking care of those 3 goats, and I mean, he's retired and all that, but like you're saying, I just know they're just a huge time commitment, whether a cow or a goat for that matter. It's just a huge time commitment that you have to deal with.
Yeah, if we get a cow, it's generally a steer or a bull maybe, but no, not a milking cow. The goats, we don't even breed our goats. We have like I said, a spring-fed pond, and with an acre or so fenced off around there, and we just use those as the automatic lawnmower machines that they just eat the grass down and keep manicured around the pond. So that's all we do with them.
Yeah, now the other question I had that I know a couple people had asked, When it comes to the home, your homestead and stuff like that. Um, I know you sell some of your stuff. Do you have like an area designated? I guess you must take part of it for your family, and the other part is for, I guess, selling, for obviously for profit to pay to live. Is that how you do it, or is there another method you come up with? Or
Well, like I said, we run the store Ready-Made Resources, which is, we consider it an emergency preparedness homesteading store. We carry thousands of products on our website and on our store. We also run our ceramic shop, which I produce ceramics for sale. And then we do run the luthier shop, which I do produce guitars for sale. And then my wife runs Sunrise Holistic Solutions, where she does consultation and supplements sales. So between that, we stay pretty busy, and it provides our income. And most people, when they look for a source of income, can always find a cottage business of something that people need. And it's the way towards self-reliance. We didn't do this all at one step. It was a whole mindset that started to develop back when my wife and I were first married 29 years ago. And as we've developed this mentality and built step upon step, we've gotten to where we can be large and not need a lot of what people would need to spend money for. But we still enjoy life. Still enjoy the power grid that's coming to our property, and so it's not an 18th century homestead where you wouldn't have any of those types of things. We do enjoy quite a range of modern conveniences, but we power a lot of it with solar, and that's the thing we really enjoy. Is if the grid goes out, my store can keep operational. My lights in the house keep operational. In fact, we've actually had people call the power grid and say, "How come you got their lights on but not ours?" Battery backup, and so we can. And it's a very enjoyable life. Both my wife and I enjoy the gardening. We have enough trails we can go horseback riding. And so it's something we very much enjoy. And then again, the reward and the satisfaction of producing your own food, especially when the cost of fresh vegetables, organic day, quantity of them yourself, saves quite a bit on the family budget.
so somebody's asking about the milk. How do you deal with pasteurizing it? I'm not sure if you have an answer for that or not.
Um, Yes, it's called we don't pasteurize. You have to be careful and follow state laws with this because there's state laws concerning the pasteurization of milk, and we've all heard these horror stories. But if you own your own animals, you don't have to kills all the milk. So strong case to be pasteurize raw milk. People all over the planet. And pasteurization is in regards to, if you look at 6,000 years of man's history on the planet, pasteurization is fairly new, and even entities of the population on the planet today drink unpasteurized milk. I actually think pasteurized milk, unpasteurized milk is safer to drink than pasteurized milk. If you go, you can do the studies and find out more people get sick from milk that's been processed than milk that has not been processed. So we drink raw milk.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic you bring up because my mom's actually a kidney patient, and she's actually, they told her, pasteurized, unpasteurized milk is completely out of the question. I'm not saying one's right or one's wrong. Obviously, you have to listen to what the doctor said, but it's kind of interesting that you would say that because she's actually told the opposite.
Well, again, that's what I'm saying. Each person has to make those decisions in life. I think when you look at raw milk, you see that, and the same thing with fruit juices. We make a lot. We'll pears or apples. We make in the fall. We enjoy doing it. We have a manual machine that we grind the fruit and process the milk through a press, and we drink it unpasteurized raw. After you do that, you get a lot of the probiotic that heat pasteurization kills. You put that back in your diet.
I have another person just asked, what do you deal with as far as water purification? I'm sure you probably have your own well. I mean, if I have one here at my house here in the mountains, I'm sure you probably have your own well. I'm not sure if you worry about that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I am. We are very concerned with it because throughout the modern age, through pharmaceutical chemical, agricultural chemicals, um, just even jet exhaust. There's toxic chemicals that come out of jet exhaust that eventually end up on the earth or soil. We have wells. I have 4 wells on the property, but we use a big Berkey filter for every bit of our filtering water. So it takes out all chemicals that would be in our water. Plus we filter every bit of water we drink, and so we get the bacteria and any chemicals out of our water. Because in groundwater today, because of our modern society, there are quite a few chemicals that have leached into the water table. So a big Berkey water filter, you can go online and check them out, are very effective at removing those.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I know where we live. Like I said, we live in Pennsylvania in a very rural area. But like I said, I know we have a well of our own, and for us, power is very vital because where we are, if I don't have power, I can't run my well pump, which means no water. And we all know water is one of the building blocks of life.
That's one of the things we stress most. We think a prepared lifestyle where people are ready for things is probably the best national security policy this nation could have. When people aren't dependent that in an emergency somebody has to run to the government and wait for the government to provide for them. There's many ways you can get water out of a well. I mean, just as old as an old well bucket, where you just get a piece of PVC pipe and put a check valve in the bottom, drop it down the bottom of the well, and pull it back up. You can pull water out of your well manually. Your pump to get water out. Again, we can do it off solar. Address the water issue. I think as people that are on wells where they would have to have water to supply their house, a generator to run that in an emergency. Solar energy, it takes quite an investment to do it, to buy the components to be able to run a well on solar. To do that, those components also run everything else in your house. So.
Yeah, I know. We use the generator from our well.
Do you have a backup generator?
Yeah, we use the backup generator on our well here. That's what we do. But the other thing I guess I got another Twitter question. I don't know what your time is like, Rob. I don't want to hold you up if you have something else to do, Rob. Bart. Somebody's asking me, does the solar power, does the cost savings, when does the cost savings kick in after you buy the equipment? Because they're saying the equipment's quite expensive.
Well, yeah. First and foremost, the government's very gracious and towards us in one way that we get a 30% federal tax credit if you buy a solar energy system that ties back into the grid. So if you put $25,000, $30,000 into it, you get your $7,000, $8,000 tax credit immediately. And then there's about an 8 to 10 year payoff to when you would be at the point of breaking even. But the equipment is designed to last 25 years. So after that 7 to 8 year period, maybe up to 10, you are then making electricity that is virtually free of charge. So it's not a strategy you're going to develop to say I want to make immediate payoff. In the 25, 30 years my equipment's going to last me, it's going to make me a lot of money or save me a lot of money.
Because I know there's a company actually that just opened up around here that is doing the solar panels and things of that nature. I know a couple of our guys had looked into it, local radio club guys had looked into it. I know they had said that it's expensive to start with, but you don't really see the savings for a couple of years. I mean, is there a lot of maintenance on equipment like that? I mean, do you have to deal with damage? What goes into that? Because I know where we are, it's a really wooded area, so the first thing I worry about is a tree falling on the solar panel.
sure you do is to call your insurance agent and make them give that whatever addendum they need to add to your insurance policy, that your panels are covered in the event of hail or some type of wind damage or even trees falling or whatever damaging your solar panels. And the thing is, in the last 10 years, the price of solar panels have dramatically fallen. So it's becoming far more economical to put a system in today than it was even 15 years ago. We just put a brand new system in 2 years ago, and I spent about $25,000 to do it. And I got my $8,000 tax credit when I went to pay my tax bill. And so I have maybe $16,000 in it, and that'll be paid off in a few years. And again, I get an addendum from my insurance company stating that my solar panels are covered.
Yeah, because I guess some of the people are saying, well,
let me address
because in our area right now, like I said, right now we're having a hailstorm right now outside right now. I'm pretty much in for the next day or two because of this ice storm. And I guess people are saying, how do you deal with them not getting damaged?
Well, most it will stand the impact of up to a 1-inch hailstone. So we prevent damage by hail. But if they were, my insurance policy, home insurance policy, would cover it. So I think that's what you have to look at is having your insurance company add that to your policy. In worst case, if you had like we do 30 panels out there, we have 300 watt panels, and we had a large hailstorm. I was going to go to places that they only
Yeah, because I know we always have dealing with hail here and snow, and I mean we pretty much we get all 4 seasons, so I know that's always a question that people had. And then the other question I guess I had too is dealing with emergency communication. We're always dealing with batteries and stuff like that, and I mean the battery life. I mean something like with solar panels, do you have to replace the battery life on those kinds of, not the panels themselves, but the batteries that they charge? Is that a constant maintenance item? Is it something you have to do like in a yearly cycle? You maybe do 10 this year, 10 next year. Obviously, you don't get a huge financial hit. I'm not sure. What does that entail? Just because I know that's just a question I have. I was just wondering.
Well, there's basic 2 different types of battery technology. There's what they call a glass battery, a solid glass battery, a gel battery, and then a lead acid battery. We chose to go with lead acid batteries, and we picked one of the best brands you can buy. If you take care of them, they'll last you 15 years. These rolls of sweat. They're very, very large batteries. You can't move them by yourself. 2 people would be very challenged to move them. But again, in doing that, you're buying a very heavy-duty battery, which will last me, if I take, like I said, I take care of them 15 years. I just have to make sure I put them where they need it. That's all I have to do.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting to about the solar energy and stuff, especially when you said how long you get out of a good charge. 30 solar panels, that's really impressive. And I'm sure you also do have backup generators for when you run out of battery, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have a big diesel generator. It's also tied into the system, and then I have smaller generators that we can use for different projects if I need to. People they can understand is in an emergency or even for day-to-day use, any solar is better than no solar. When the power is down, if I can recharge my flashlight batteries, and as we've seen in different storms that have come out of Hurricane Sandy, if I charge my phone or flashlight batteries, I'm bounds beyond the person that can't do it. So you can get into buying some small solar panels that are designed to charge flashlight batteries, that are designed to charge your computer, that are designed to charge your cell phone, and you can do that for just a little bit of money. And so we can look at the big project, but sometimes we just need to look at the small project, because that way some of the things that we really do need like cell phones. We've seen people, that their cell phone's dead after a storm. They can't contact anybody, but just a couple watt solar panel, um, you could charge your cell phone. Goal Zero, we sell it, but it's available all over the internet. Goal Zero makes solar panels that you can charge just about anything you want. And so look at it that way. Look at where I can start. Maybe not just a great big system, but can I charge a battery to run my ham radio? Does it run on 12 volts? Can I keep a shortwave radio going? Can I keep my flashlight going? Can I keep my cell phone going? You can do that very economically.
Well, I know when we had dealt with we've been dealing with hurricanes in this part of the area. Maybe over the last maybe couple of years, we've actually had a couple of good hurricanes, and I know myself, I always have a backup generator, and it just shocks me. You talk about homeland security and things of that nature. It just shocked me. The day before we had the hurricane, I was at Home Depot just picking up a few things for the house. Nothing I really needed, just a couple things to fix the house up before the storm. And I was shocked the amount of people that were there buying sump pumps and generators. I was like, I couldn't believe that people weren't ready at all for the storm.
We lived in Florida and that would always amaze me to see people right before the hurricane hits down buying flashlight batteries. And at that time, you're going to pay premium dollar. You're going to be fighting crowds for limited resources. And in fact, that's what really got me going into starting Ready-Made Resources was the hurricane that went through the Homestead. We were pretty much equipped for it. Now, we didn't get hit by the direct storm, but we still got a severe part of that storm, whereas Homestead was devastated. People started asking me, where did you get this? Why did you have that? And you prepared? How did you get prepared? And we started Ready-Made Resources through that unfortunate accident that happened to South Florida. And since then, we've grown. We have an international business. People all over the world buy from us. So it's like you said. I don't understand why people wait until the last minute to take care of things. We have such a delicate infrastructure of delivery that anything can disrupt it. Homeland Security says have 2 weeks worth of food in your house, have 2 weeks worth of drinking water in your house. I think it's good sense, and like I said, I think it's an excellent national security program. If we just had the majority of citizens where they could take care of themselves and wouldn't have to go down and wait for the government to take care of them, the people that are truly in need could be serviced, because there's some people that we have to acknowledge cannot afford to take care of it. They don't have the budget to do it. But a lot of us do, and we can start small and build upon it. And again, with solar, you can start small with solar and just be able to charge your cell phone, be able to charge those radios, flashlights.
Well, the thing that interesting. But my wife and I were just talking about this the other day. We thought it was kind of interesting. We do have several weeks of food, and I probably stock maybe 50 to 65 gallons of water, and just in the house plus our well and stuff like that. But we were laughing that during the hurricane, they were opening up in our area charging stations so people could charge their phones so they can make phone calls. I mean, a tiny, even we're talking about solar. But even the tiniest of generator has at least one plug where you can plug a cell phone in to charge it. I was just amazed me that they had to open up, the American Red Cross had to take resources away to open up charging stations for people to charge their cell phones. That baffled my mind.
Well, again, that company Goal Zero, they make these little foldable cigarette lighter and USB charging adapter ports. So you can do anything that runs on a cigarette lighter or anything that charges off USB. 7 watts, you can put it out in the sun, you can charge your cell phone, you can hook a battery charger up to it, to put your A, AA's, C's, D's batteries into it, 9 volt, get those charged. You can buy larger solar panels that if you need to charge your computer, keep that running, or even a little bit larger if you're the ham radio operators with just a 12 volt battery. If their equipment can run off that, you can get a small inverter. So you can keep your equipment running that way and charge it with solar, a couple solar panels and a regulator, and have a backup so that you can keep your ham radio equipment up and running. It makes all the difference in the world in an emergency if we can communicate and talk to each other and stay in touch and see what's going on.
Yeah, when you're talking about that, I actually do have an inverter for the car that I do use as a backup for my batteries dry up. I have not actually had to use it. I have. I'm actually in my office right now, looking at about seven batteries, fairly large batteries that I use to power my ham radio kit. Either off-site because we've had to go off-site several times, especially with these storms that we've been having and stuff like that. But also too to run, and then I have the inverter for the car if I ever need to charge the batteries. I mean, I probably could probably run for a week just on battery power, just my ham radio unit if I had to.
Well, again, your generator has the capability probably to recharge your batteries. But for a small amount of money, you can put a couple solar panels up, you need a charge regulator, and then you could also add a solar capability to doing that. If you live in an area that have high wind, they make wind generators, not large ones, but small ones, that you can hook to it that are self-regulated, hook right to the battery, or your batteries. There's really not a lot of excuse not to have some ability to do what we're talking about. It's just common sense in this day and age. We see so many times these devastating storms hit or something happens. The supply mechanism is down for temporarily. We should know how to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, I'm actually getting a tweet from one of my ham radio buddies saying that we live in the mountains of Pennsylvania. Wind is definitely not at a shortage.
Yeah, there's a company called Primus. They make a wind generator, makes 400 watts. So when that wind's blowing, you hook that up to a battery bank and keep your batteries charged with the wind. It's very, it's $600-700 to do the whole thing, but again, keep your power going. Power goes down, you're making electricity. It's a very good feeling to know that I do that and can do it, and it's a good feeling for anybody I think that has any capability of making electricity. Um, when things goes down. Again, my neighbor, if my neighbor doesn't have it, he could come over and plug in, and it builds camaraderie, friendships, everything. If I have something like that, and I can allow them to use it to a degree that helps them out, again, it's good on so many different levels.
Yeah, we had Rob from not last week. Last week we had somebody from Tactical Wood Gas on. They're a really great company. The week before that, we had another man named Robert from a company called Alerts USA on, and he was talking about situational awareness and being situationally aware. I would say at your homestead, you're definitely aware, definitely ready for a situation when it comes up. Rob, I want to thank you very much for being on the program with us. I know we're actually getting a little late here. What I want to do is, if you can just take a couple minutes and just tell us a little bit about, Ready Made, and just give us a little bit about the company. Just some time for yourself here. Just tell us about the company. Products that are highlights for you, and anything you could do for the listeners would be great.
Well, again, it's our company is Ready Made Resources. We've been in business 18 years. You mentioned the security. I have been fortunate enough to travel around the world doing security also. That's one thing I read. And we do answer a lot of questions from people when they have those issues of security or solar or gardening. And we encourage people to call us if they have those questions. If we have an 800 number, they can call. But again, 18 years in business, a lot of experience with the people between my wife, my sons, me. We'll be glad to answer any questions people have if they have after the program. But they can visit our website at readymaderesources.com. And then again, if they have questions, give us a call.
Rob, if they mention the show, is there any special deal or anything you can give them on any specific product or anything?
Well, one of the things we do is we sell a lot of the Mountain House food. A lot of campers buy it. A lot of people store it for that. For every $100 people buy, we give them back 15 pre-1965 silver dimes. Now, but anybody who mentions the show and buys something, I will put 3 free samples of Mountain House in their package with them. So it'll be a tear open, freeze dried meal. You just add hot water to it, and you can in the show.
Rob, I want to thank you very much for taking your time today to be on the program with us. I know you're a busy guy with everything going on there. Again, I want to thank you very much for being on the program with us here today, and hopefully maybe we can have you on again in the future.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you again for having me on. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.